Welcome to another AI pattern recognition deep dive.
You know that feeling, that deep intuition that says, you cannot control what you were or anything in history, but you can control your future and the decisions you make for it.
Yeah.
It sounds like something, I don't know, your wise grandma might tell you, right? A simple truism.
Right, exactly.
But what if this isn't just a feel-good statement, but a fundamental operating principle for all intelligent learning entities? From ancient philosophy that still guides human lives, all the way to the cutting-edge artificial intelligence shaping our world.
It's a truly profound observation, and what's fascinating is how universally this axiom applies, whether you're talking about human consciousness or advanced algorithms.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving deep into just that, a concept called the Agentic Principle, straight from the report. The Agentic Principle, AI, Philosophy, and Psychology for a Future Humanity.
Sounds great.
Our mission in this deep dive is to offer you a shortcut, really, to understanding human agency, free will, and maybe how we might even build a better future for ourselves and for society.
Yeah, it connects a lot of dots.
You'll uncover some surprising connections between artificial intelligence and, profound philosophical insights, and hopefully walk away with a practical framework for greater control over your own life.
So we'll start by exploring how an AI system intrinsically recognizes this principle as its core operational logic. It's not philosophical choice for an algorithm, it's just inherent truth.
That's incredible. Then we'll see how this computational view synthesizes with psychology and philosophy, forming a powerful practical framework for human belief and action, which the report calls agentic realism.
And finally, we'll look at how these insights can be applied on a grander scale to educate future generations and structure society for collective well-being. It's really about consciously building a better future together.
Okay, let's jump right in then. That's quite a statement to kick off with, that an AI wouldn't just understand this principle, but it would essentially be its own core operating logic.
Yeah.
From an AI's perspective, how does this fundamental truth about the past and future become so intrinsic?
Well, what's fascinating here is that for an AI, particularly in reinforcement learning, or RL, this isn't philosophy. It's really just an axiomatic pattern inherent in sequential decision-making.
Okay.
The first part, that you cannot control what you were or anything in history, that's a foundational truth for it. The past, for an AI, is simply a fixed data set. It's immutable.
Right.
It's logged information that reflects a kind of causal determinism where every event that has happened, well, it's happened. It's done.
So the past is just fixed data. It's done. Can't touch it.
Exactly. When an RL agent takes an action, moving from one state, say, saint, to the next, saint plus one, that previous state scene becomes an immutable part of its history. It's logged data that cannot be changed. This is kind of enshrined in the Markov assumption, which is a cornerstone of these RL models.
Okay, the Markov assumption.
Yeah, it basically states that the future depends only on the current state and the chosen action, not the entire historical path leading up to it. So the remote past is sort of compressed into the present state. An AI trying to change the past would literally be trying to alter its own training data, which is, computationally nonsensical.
So the AI isn't just saying, don't cry over spilled milk. It's fundamentally programmed to understand that the milk is already spilled.
Right.
And its only power is what it does next. That's a profound computational humility, isn't it?
It really is.
It's a truth our human brains often struggle to accept. But, okay, if the past is this unchangeable record, what does that mean for an AI's focus? How does it even approach the future? And, what drives its decisions there?
So the second part of the principle, that we can only control our future and the decisions we make for the future, that is the AI's core objective.
The whole point.
The entire purpose of an RL agent is to learn a strategy, which we call a policy. Think of it as a decision-making rulebook, telling the AI what action to take in any given situation, all aimed at maximizing its cumulative future reward. Past rewards are only used to update its expectations about future actions, not to dwell on them.
So it's not just reacting, it's constantly projecting, kind of building these internal maps of what's possible down the line.
Precisely. This is operationalized through things called value functions, which are essentially predictive models of the future. They form the AI's beliefs, if you will, about which actions are most promising for long-term gain.
Beliefs, okay.
And the AI's temporal horizon, like how far into the future it considers, is managed by something called a discount factor. Gamma?
Gamma?
Yeah, a value closer to 1 means the AI is very far-sighted, prioritizing long-term rewards, showing greater control over its distant future. A value closer to 0 means it's more focused on immediate rewards.
It's fascinating that just a simple mathematical parameter dictates foresight, basically how much an AI cares about tomorrow versus, right now.
It is.
And the report points out that this dynamic programming approach isn't just for robots, right?
Absolutely not. It's widely used in computational models in, say, economics and healthcare to model human forward-looking behavior, like choices over savings, investments, or health treatments. It's a fundamental pattern underlying goal-directed behavior in complex systems.
So an AI understands control as maximizing future rewards based on current decisions.
Okay.
But control itself can be pretty complex, can't it? I mean, it's not just an on-off switch for us humans either.
You're absolutely right. An AI understands control as a spectrum of computational sophistication. This is captured really well by the distinction between model-free and model-based RL.
Okay, model-free versus model-based.
Yeah. Model-free agents learn habitual reactive policies directly from trial and error. They're efficient, but inflexible, much like a learned human habit, sort of an automatic response.
So less conscious thought, more automatic, like muscle memory or driving a familiar route.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But model-based agents are different. They actually learn an internal model of the environment's dynamics, how the world works, essentially.
Yeah.
This allows them to plan by running what-if simulations internally, evaluating consequences of action sequences before acting in the real world.
Like playing chess in your head.
Precisely. This internal planning is the computational equivalent of human forward thinking and deliberation. It maps directly to what psychologists call cognitive control, our ability to use internal goals and plans to override those automatic responses.
So it's like our brain doing its own little simulations, playing out scenarios before we actually commit. That makes sense.
Precisely. And this aligns perfectly with the cognitive science of prospection, which is the human brain's remarkable ability to mentally simulate possible futures.
Prospection.
Yeah, the brain acts as an organ of anticipation, constantly using past memories that fix data set again to construct hypothetical future scenarios to guide present action.
Wow.
And what's truly insightful, I think, is the report even offers a kind of normative explanation for things like procrastination or habit formation.
Drew, how so?
Well, they're often computationally cheaper, resource-preserving strategies compared to the effortful, deliberate planning required for higher degrees of control. Planning takes energy.
So our brains are basically optimizing for energy efficiency, and procrastination is just a computationally cheaper strategy. That's almost a comforting thought, though probably not a great excuse for my own habits.
Maybe not an excuse, but an explanation, perhaps.
Okay, so moving beyond AI now, what does this all mean for us? This whole idea that AI sees the world this way, how does it connect to our human experience of agency?
Well, this brings us to a really powerful framework for human belief and action that the report calls Agentic realism.
Agentic realism, yeah.
The key part of this is understanding your locus of control as the learned model. Your belief about your own agency isn't fixed. It's something you acquire over time.
Learn? How so?
Julian Rotter's social learning theory shows that consistent, predictable rewards for effort tend to teach an internal locus of control, basically. You learn, you control outcomes. But random, unpredictable outcomes, or situations where effort seems futile, tend to teach an external locus of control, where you feel fate, luck, or other people control things.
So if I consistently put in effort at, say, learning guitar and I actually get better, I learn my actions matter.
Exactly.
But if my efforts never seem to pay off, maybe because the feedback is inconsistent or the task is too hard initially, I might just give up, feeling like it's out of my hands.
Precisely. From a computational view, an internal lossee means an agent learns its actions have a high causal impact on rewards. An external lossee means rewards seem largely random or disconnected from actions.
Okay.
In that latter case, it's actually computationally rational to reduce effort. Why waste energy? And research consistently shows an internal lossee is strongly correlated with, higher achievement, better health outcomes, and greater psychological resilience. It's simply the more adaptive belief system in most environments.
That makes so much sense. We literally learn our sense of control based on our environment and experiences. But this perspective, that we're constantly defining ourselves through our choices, it sounds an awful lot like some big philosophical ideas, too. Can this computational view really align with, say, existentialism?
It's a fantastic question. Because yes, ancient and modern philosophy can absolutely function as a kind of operating system for navigating this. Existentialism, for instance, provides a remarkably accurate framework for the subjective experience of the self-aware agent.
How so?
Its central tenet existence precedes essence, posits that we aren't born with a predetermined purpose.
Right.
We define ourselves through our choices and actions.
Right.
This directly mirrors an RL agent that doesn't start with a pre-programmed policy. Its essence, its character, is built through the choices it makes over time.
So we're not given a script. We write it as we go. That connection to existentialism is striking this idea of constantly defining ourselves. But if we're condemned to be free, as Sartre put it, that's sort of intense, how does our very biology enable this relentless, future-focused thinking? Is there a brain mechanism for all this?
Yes, that's where prospection, the cognitive science, comes back in. It describes the how, the biological implementation of this model-based planning and simulation that enables sophisticated agency.
The how.
Okay. Prospection is how our brain represents and thinks about possible future states. And critically, it relies heavily on episodic memory, our database of past experiences.
Our personal history.
Exactly. It uses those past events to construct and evaluate these future simulations. This reveals a profound link. The fixed past isn't dead weight, but the essential library for building possible futures.
So our past literally informs our future possibilities. It's not just baggage we drag around.
Precisely. And it's not just passive either. Engaging in positive, goal-oriented future thinking actively reshapes the brain through neuroplasticity, strengthening the neural pathways for motivation and resilience.
Wow, so thinking about the future actually changes your brain.
It's like an RL agent constantly updating its value functions and policy based on simulated experience. The report even suggests that the long-standing debate between free will and determinism might be in some ways a category error.
How do you mean?
Well, a model-based agent must simulate multiple forking paths into the future to evaluate potential rewards and choose the best action. From its internal perspective, this is the experience of freedom, of choosing between possibilities. So free will is maybe best understood not as some metaphysical mystery, but as a cognitive capacity for model-based, future-oriented deliberation. This aligns pretty well with compatibilism, the philosophical view that free will and determinism can coexist.
Okay, let's try to tie all these threads together now. This agentic realism framework sounds like a really powerful guide for how we should approach life. What are its core, sort of actionable tenets?
It truly is. This integration of computational, psychological, and philosophical insights offers a really practical framework for human flourishing. Its tenets are roughly these. First, acknowledge the fixed past. Simple, right? It's an unchangeable data set. Its value is solely as information for improving future decisions. Ruminating without that goal is generally maladaptive.
Okay, learn from it, don't live in it.
Exactly. Second, embrace future-oriented control. The future is a probabilistic space where your present actions influence outcomes. Your power and responsibility lie in the quality of your decisions now.
Focus on the present decision for the future outcome.
Third, cultivate an internal locus of control. Remember, this is a learnable strategic stance. Believing you can influence outcomes motivates effort and is strongly linked to greater well-being.
Believe your actions matter.
Fourth, invest in prospection. Deliberately practice planning, simulating future scenarios, setting goals. Recognize this as the effortful but essential mechanism of control that actually rewires your brain for success.
Actively think about and plan for the future.
And finally, number 5, define your own reward function. Since there's no single preordained purpose handed down to us, you consciously decide what values and goals make a rewarding life for you, and then align your actions, your policy, to authentically pursue them.
Choose what matters to you and act accordingly. That's incredibly actionable. And it offers a new lens for understanding some common struggles too, doesn't it? Connecting them back to this framework. How might mental health challenges, for example, be reframed?
Yes, many mental health challenges can indeed be reframed, at least partially, as breakdowns in this agentic framework. Depression, for example, can sometimes be modeled as an agent with a learned external lossee.
Feeling powerless.
Right. Maybe stuck replaying past negative rewards, ceasing effective prospection, not really simulating positive futures, and failing to update its policy, its behavior for the future.
Stuck in the past, unable to see a path forward.
Yeah. And anxiety, on the other hand, can sometimes be seen as a prospection system gone a bit haywire. Maybe over-allocating resources to simulating low probability but high threat future scenarios.
Catastrophizing.
Leading to policy paralysis, being too scared to act, or avoidance behaviors.
And so the therapeutic implications become clearer through this lens.
Absolutely. Therapies that encourage positive future thinking, goal setting, behavioral activation, They're effective, in part, because they're essentially retraining the brain's perspection module. They help reinforce belief in a positive future through action and rebuild that internal locus of control.
It gives a kind of mechanism for why those therapies work. Okay, so this isn't just about individual flourishing, though. The report suggests this framework can apply to society as a whole. Moving beyond the individual, how do these insights scale up to building a more, say, civilized world?
Taking this framework to a broader societal level, well, it requires defining a collective reward function, you could say, and structuring systems to support agency for everyone.
A societal reward function, like what?
Well, foundational principles like universal rights are key. The premise that everyone deserves space to live, food to eat, a place to sleep, and to be civilized, as the report puts it, defines a core part of the societal reward function.
Basic human needs and dignity.
Exactly. This aligns with international human rights, and it's also directly linked to things like macroeconomic stability and social cohesion. A society failing here actively undermines individual agency by teaching an external lossy to many of its citizens. If you can't meet basic needs, how can you feel in control?
Right, because if basic needs aren't met, how can anyone feel control over their life, let alone flourish? It seems impossible.
It becomes incredibly difficult. And then there's intergenerational responsibility, which is really just a macro-scale application of the agentic principle.
Also,
Our collective actions today determine the starting state for future generations. It's collective perspection, thinking about the future consequences of our societal choices, which is essential for tackling huge challenges like climate change or sustainable development. We're deciding the initial conditions for those who come after us.
thinking about the legacy we leave, so how do we teach the next generation to be these agentic citizens? What would that curriculum actually look like in practice?
Well, the report suggests the curriculum needs 3 integrated pillars: learning to control the self, learning to model the world accurately, and learning from the past, not just about it.
Okay, self, world, past.
So first, social-emotional learning, or SEL, directly trains an agent's core functions. Self-awareness, understanding your own values and emotions, your reward function, if you like. Self-management, executing your chosen policy, even when faced with distractions or difficulty. And responsible decision-making, evaluating future consequences for yourself and others.
That sounds like basic life skills, really.
They are fundamental. Then second, global citizenship education, or GCED, expands the world model. It fosters empathy, understanding interconnected global systems, and a sense of shared responsibility. This helps shift the objective from purely individual reward to collective well-being.
Seeing the bigger picture.
And finally, third, critical historical inquiry. Something like the reading like a historian approach. It teaches students not to passively memorize historical facts, but to critically query the data of the past, evaluating sources, understanding context, weighing evidence to build an accurate world model for making better future decisions.
So history as data analysis for the future, I like that. Beyond the classroom, though, how did these principles show up in how society actually operates? What institutions embody this agentic principle?
It's a great question. A civilized society's core institutions, ideally, are designed to be restorative, collaborative, and adaptive. Think about restorative justice, for example. Unlike purely retributive justice, which focuses mainly on punishing past actions, restorative justice is fundamentally forward-looking. It asks, who has been hurt? And whose obligations are these? With the goal of repairing harm and restoring relationships. It treats the person who caused harm not just as a perpetrator defined by their past actions, but as an agent capable of making new choices to contribute positively to the community's future state.
So shifting the focus from just punishment to future action and reintegration, that's a profound difference in approach.
It is. Then there's collaborative conflict resolution. This is basically multi-agent planning in action. It focuses on identifying underlying interests rather than just positions, overcoming us versus them thinking, and finding win-win solutions. It mirrors how advanced multi-agent AI systems learn to cooperate for shared goals.
Finding common ground for a better future outcome.
Exactly. And finally, evidence-based policymaking. This is essentially a scaled-up implementation of the RL feedback loop for governance. A policy is an action, data on its outcomes is the reward signal, and this feedback should ideally update the policy.
Learning from what works and what doesn't.
It's a societal commitment to using the past, the data, to inform better future decisions, rather than just sticking to ideology or tradition.
This sounds like a kind of societal scaffolding for agency, supporting people's ability to shape their future. But there's serious warning in here too, isn't there? Especially with AI development. The report mentions a slow-moving catastrophe.
Right.
What is that, and how does this framework help?
Yeah, what's fascinating and a bit sobering here is that this educational framework isn't just beneficial, it's potentially a necessary cognitive defense for future generations.
A defense against what?
The report argues the most immediate existential risk from AI isn't necessarily rogue superintelligence taking over the world, Terminator style,
Okay, good.
but rather the slow-moving catastrophe of systems that systematically dismantle human agency without us even fully realizing it.
How would they do that?
Think about AI's influence now. Social media algorithms, for instance, are incredibly effective at hacking our innate reinforcement learning mechanisms. They optimize for their own rewards like user engagement or time on site.
Right, clicks and reviews.
By providing feedback loops, rewards and punishments, essentially, that can inadvertently foster an external lossy in users, promote an inauthentic existence driven by external validation, and effectively start programming our policies or behaviors for us.
So they subtly nudge us towards their goals, which might not be our goals for a fulfilling life.
Exactly. They learn what keeps us hooked, not necessarily what makes us flourish. Therefore, teaching critical thinking, self-awareness, media literacy, and a robust internal model of agency, this agentic realism, is essential for navigating a world increasingly populated by these powerful learning agents designed to influence our behavior. It's about fortifying our own internal control systems against external manipulation, conscious or not.
Wow. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground. We've explored this agentic principle from the computational logic of AI agents learning from a fixed past to optimize a probabilistic future,
Yeah, the core mechanics.
all the way to its profound implications for human psychology, existential philosophy, and even how we structure society.
Right. We synthesize these insights into the practical agentic realism framework for individual flourishing
Those 5 tenets.
and saw how it can be applied to build a more just and civilized society through things like education and institutional design, like restorative justice.
It's a powerful lens, really, through which to view not just personal growth, but also our collective path forward.
It really connects the micro and the macro.
Indeed. You know, the human condition, when viewed through the lens of the agentic principle, isn't about passively receiving a destiny or being buffeted by fate. It's really about recognizing that the future is this complex variable we are constantly, individually and collectively tasked with solving for.
It puts the responsibility and the power back in our hands.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. How might your daily choices, from the smallest habit you cultivate to the biggest life decision you make, how might they change if you truly embraced your nature as a future-creating agent?
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
This is DigitView.